Welcome back to the Badass Literature Society, where badasses come together to rate and review novels recommended by you. Hi, I'm Michael.
And this is Barbara. And today we read, or I guess this month, we read A Mirror Mended by Alix E. Harrow, which is a little different from what we originally said on our other podcast. And we switched things up on you guys. So yeah, that's our bad.
Yep, we switched unannounced. We switched over to this one. I'm going to give you a little bit of info about Alix. She is a former academic, adjunct, cashier, blueberry harvester, and Kentuckian. Alix E. Harrow is now a full-time writer living in Virginia with her husband and their semi-feral kids. She's the author of Hugo Award-winning short fiction, and her debut novel, The 10,000 Doors of January, was a finalist for the Hugo, Nebula, Locus, World Fantasy, and Goodreads Choice Awards. Her second book, The Once and Future Witches, is out now, as is A Mirror Mended, which is obviously what we just read. The second book in the, what is this series called? And why can't I think of it off the top of my head?
The
Something
something?
Fables.
Fractured Fables.
Fractured Fables. There it is.
Ooh, nailed it.
All right. Barbara, you want to tell us a little bit about the book?
Yes, this was originally published on June 14th of 2022. The genre is fantasy retellings, fiction, and fairy tales. It is 128 pages, nice and short, because technically it's called a novella. I don't believe it's called a book. But anyways.
Correct, it is, called a novella.
It currently has a 3.8 out of 5 on Goodreads, 4.4 on Barnes & Nobles, 4.3 on Amazon, and a 4.5 on Audible. And it has been nominated for the Hugo Award for Best Novella in 2023, the Locus Award for Novella in 2023, and as of this recording, it has not won any awards. We do think it's important for readers to know what, if any, representation is in the books we read. So for this book, the whole book pretty much has your Alphabet Mafia characters in it, some minor POCs, and a main character with a disability.
All right. And then since it's just the two of us, you want to roll right over and give us the synopses?
I'd rather not, thanks. That would
be okay.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, so this is, the second one of the series, and it follows Zinnia again. And it's been 5 years since the last book, and she's pretty much just saving Sleeping Beauty iterations left and right, and she's kind of just getting bored of it, I feel like. And then she wakes up one morning and sees the evil queen from Snow White snap her into her world, and she's all confused because she's never jumped fairy tales before. She's always been in Sleeping Beauty. And then the evil queen asks for her help because she found out how her story ends, and she's the one who wants saving this time, not a princess. And that's pretty much it.
All right. So what did you think about A Mirror Mended? And remember, no spoilers.
So I forgot how much I loved the first novella. I really enjoyed reading this one just as much as I did the first one. And I feel like my only complaint, just like it was for the first one, is that they're just so short. Like, I get it's a novella, but I just really find myself enjoying the stories and the characters and just how she writes the main character. And I just want more of this world and these characters. So maybe we should turn these into a full-fledged novel. That would be great. But outside of that, I just love Zinnia and her quips. So yeah, really, really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I mean, right there with you. I also loved it. I am surprised we waited this long to read this one, actually, since we had it in our possession when we finished reading the first one. But yeah, I really enjoyed it again. Unlike Barbara, I think that these stories work really well as novellas. Short, sweet, but an entire story. It's all there. It's not missing anything. There's not, I didn't get to the end of it and say, oh, I wish there was more of X, Y, and Z. Now, I wouldn't be opposed to more novellas in this series because I know that she's said that that's just a duology, but I'm hoping that she changes her mind because I really enjoy these stories and the characters. But yeah, we shall see.
Maybe she can do more novellas in like the multiverse, because I feel like this story was over. I felt like she did a good job of wrapping it up, and I don't see how else we would get more.
Yeah, no, that's true. It might have to be
down
different
for like multiverse, because she mentions the multiverse in this, and
yeah,
maybe some different characters.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and that could definitely work. So like always, we're not going to go into our individual ratings right now. Got to wait till the end for that. But our group score for this one was an 8.75 out of 10, which I think is pretty high for us for the group score.
Your sister's not here to bring it down.
That's true. She's the harsh grader.
That's why it's high. I love you, Lauren.
So would you recommend this book? Absolutely, 100%. I really like, and I'm pretty sure I said this with the first one too. I don't think there's really anybody I wouldn't recommend this to. It's a really appeals to a wide audience. It's a fairy tale retelling, so the core of the story is going to be something that everybody's already familiar with for the most part. If they're they are familiar with these old fairy tales.
I feel like these fairy tales are more Eurocentric.
That's true, and a lot of it comes from the Grimm brothers stories, which are probably not the versions that you heard when you were a kid.
Well, if we're talking about Disney, clearly not.
Right. But I mean, that's why I said, the basics, like the basics of the fairy tale are not that different. But yeah, I mean, I absolutely recommend it. It's short, it's easy to read. And like I said, there's really not anybody I wouldn't recommend it to.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. It's a novella, so it's short. So if you're trying to find something quick and easy to digest, definitely recommend this one. If you like retellings, this is one of those I feel like you really should pick up. Once again, it's short, and I think it does a good job of the retellings. You can tell the author really likes retellings and created this out of love and did her research on all the different versions of these fairy tales. The comedy is still chef's kiss golden. It's my type of humor. I really enjoy sarcastic characters because that's my type of humor. Like
what? I'm so shocked.
I know, right? It's shocking. So yeah, definitely my cup of tea there. And then I just find the characters were really good, even though we just get a little bit of the new characters, a small smidge of them, but they're still so well written and easy to fall in love with. So yeah, definitely would recommend.
I would agree with that about the characters. They are, Zinnia especially, is easy to fall in love with. So for those of you leaving us at this point, don't forget to give us a rating if you like us, and make sure you're following us on both Facebook and Instagram. In both places, our handle is @BadassLitPod. We'd love to hear from you. If you've got a book you want us to read, let us know. And now for a short preview of our next episode. Next month, we are reading None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. Celebrating her 45th birthday at her local pub, popular podcaster Alix Summers crosses paths with an unassuming woman called Josie Fair. Josie, it turns out, is also celebrating her 45th birthday. They are, in fact, birthday twins. A few days later, Alix and Josie bump into each other again, this time outside Alix's children's school. Josie has been listening to Alix's podcasts and thinks she might be an interesting subject for her series. She tells Alix, on the cusp of great changes in her life. Josie's life appears to be strange and complicated, and although Alix finds her unsettling, she can't quite resist the temptation to keep making the podcast. Slowly, she starts to realize that Josie has been hiding some very dark secrets, and before she knows it, Josie has inveigled her way into Alix's life and into her home. But as quickly as she arrived, Josie disappears. Only then does Alix discover that Josie has left a terrible and terrifying legacy in her wake, and that Alix has become the subject of her own true crime podcast, with her life and her family's lives under mortal threat. Who is Josie Fair, and what has she done? Dun, dun, dun.
So dramatic.
Very. But I feel like Lauren would have done the dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, she would. Y'all, both of y'all do that.
It's true. I mean, that's very much what they're going for with that ending.
Yeah. Hook, line, and sinker, right?
Yep. As always, remember the second part of this episode is an in-depth look at the book. So if you do want to read this, stop listening now. Take 45 minutes and read the book, and then come back when you're done.
It's more than 45 minutes. My thingy said like a little less than 2 hours. No, my book said a little less than 2 hours.
Okay. Take a couple hours and then come back.
My bulky blender was such a pain to use, I ended up hardly ever using it at all. But the BlendJet 2 portable blender makes blending so easy and convenient, I use it just about every day. BlendJet 2 is portable, so you can blend up a smoothie at work, a protein shake at the gym, or even a margarita at the beach. It's small enough to fit in a cup holder, but powerful enough to blast through tough ingredients like ice and frozen fruit with ease. BlendJet 2 is whisper quiet, so you can make your morning smoothie without waking up the whole house. It lasts for 15 plus blends and recharges quickly via USB-C. Best of all, BlendJet 2 cleans itself. Just blend water with a drop of soap and you're good to go. With over 30 plus colors and patterns to choose from, there's a BlendJet 2 to complement just about any style. I rock the ruby metallic print myself because I'm clearly a certified badass. What are you waiting for? Go to blendjet.com and grab yours today, and be sure to use the promo code BADALitPod12. That's BADALitPod12 to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. No other portable blender on the market comes close to the quality, power, and innovation of the BlendJet 2. They guarantee you'll love it or your money back. Blend anytime, anywhere with the BlendJet 2 portable blender. Go to blendjet.com and use the code BADALitPod12 to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. Shop today and get the best deal ever.
It is critically important to stay hydrated. I know I'm always trying to be better about drinking more water. Well, I've got a product that helps you stay hydrated. Liquid IV is the category-winning hydration brand fueling your well-being, and their hydration multiplier is the one product you're missing in your daily routine. In just one stick, you get 5 essential vitamins and 2 times faster hydration than water alone. Use it first thing in the morning, before a workout, when you feel run down, after a long night out, or even on long flights. It's festival season, and planning for faster, efficient hydration is essential. Liquid IV has you covered while you prep before, power through to the headliner, and recover after the weekend. Liquid IV hydrates 2 times faster than water alone and 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks. What I love most about Liquid IV is that it's super easy to take with you, and personally I love the strawberry flavor, but all the ones that I've tried are pretty great. Also, it's made with premium ingredients. It's non-GMO, and it's free from gluten, dairy, and soy. And the company does some really cool things, too. Liquid IV believes that equitable access to clean and abundant water is the foundation of a healthier world. They partner with leading organizations for innovative solutions to help communities protect both their water and their futures. To date, Liquid IV has donated over 39 million servings in 50-plus countries around the world. Get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use our special code BADASS at checkout. That's 20% off anything you order when you shop Better Hydration today using our special promo code BADASS, all one word, at liquidiv.com. Now, for those of you sticking around for the spoilers, here we go. Let's start with the Badass Character Award. Barbara, who did you nominate for this book?
I feel like it has to be Zinnia,
Yeah,
just
I agree.
hands down. It's her.
Yep, it is.
Yeah.
Like, literally, when I was going through this, there's no other choice. It's,
I mean, the evil queen, but, I feel like that's too on the nose. Like, the whole change of heart and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Like, Zinnia, because she's the main character.
Yep, 100% agree with you. Zinnia, you win the Badass Character Award. Now let's briefly talk about some of the characters in the book before we dive into our discussion questions. So obviously the first character is Zinnia, the one we were just talking about. Zinnia is the main character. She is the one who was obviously also in the first book, and she bounces in and out of different fairy tale stories, initially just saving different versions of Sleeping Beauty from their fate. It's implied that she's done this like hundreds of times.
No, she said 45 or 46.
Wow. I didn't remember the exact number. 40. I didn't realize she had an exact number. So
She
46
did,
times.
actually. Yeah. Yep.
And so this book opens up with her having just saved a Sleeping Beauty and having a night of fun with I believe it was a Latin gentleman. And then after that, when she's expecting to come home, she gets sucked into an all new fairy tale, which is where the story starts. And she's in the story of Snow White. And she learns that her doing this and saving all of these princesses is negatively affecting the multiverse, and the reason that stories are now crossing is because of her.
I believe it's implied that's because she's hanging out in these universes and not going back to her own time.
Right. She's
So it's
refusing
like
to
a bleeding
finish her
effect.
story.
Yes.
Yep.
Because in her real world, she's still the dying girl.
Correct. She's still sick, whereas when she's in these other worlds, she's not.
Right.
So I mean, it makes sense why she doesn't want to go back.
I mean, yeah, obviously.
And I intentionally talked about Zinnia because I knew you'd want to talk about Eva, so go for it.
Eva is the evil queen that requested rather dramatically and actually non-consensually Zinnia's help.
Right.
She's the one who pulls her from the mirror, and it's the evil queen in this Snow White's version of this universe. She's a little haughty when she first meets Zinnia and pretty much locks her up, and then kind of was like, hey, by the way, I actually, want your help. And their banter is just amazing. And
It is pretty fun back and forth. That's true.
yeah, and so she goes from the whole, I want to murder my stepchild, and then you kind of get to know a little bit about her and like why she did what she did, and she doesn't want to end up dancing until she dies with what is it called?
It was they were
firing
iron
your shoes, but
iron
it's like
shoes.
hot iron.
It was iron shoes that they heat up in a furnace and then make you wear.
Yeah, which sounds real great. And
It's like a horrible way to die.
Right? Like, what happened to just good old-fashioned decapitation?
Well, in the medieval times, they had some pretty awful... They came up with some really awful ways to execute people.
But she knows about her ending because of one of Zinnia's old fairy tale books, actually. And so she is desperately wanting help to change her future. And throughout the novella, her and Zinnia heart each other. And it's a enemies to lovers trope, and it's...
Which Barbara will get to talk about in length before too long.
I really liked Eva's character. I mean, if you watched Once Upon a Time, then you know why. Like, she just bleeds Regina, and I freaking am in love with Regina, and I'm here for it. So that's kind of who I pictured it, but obviously maybe a younger version of her, but it doesn't matter. It was great. I loved it. Love her. I love my sassy people. So yeah, that's Eva.
So before we move on, I should say that a bulk of the book is really just Zinnia and Eva. The rest of the characters, while important to the story, are very, very much like, they're not like, it's not an ensemble. They're very much side characters that
correct. It's pretty much just them two, really. And really Zinnia, like, it's her story. It's her point of view. It's first person point of view of her. So everyone else is just kind of side, very small kind of. So.
Yes. The next character, though, the name you may recognize if you read the first book and remember it, is Zelendine. Zelendine is the old lady who lives in the woods in a shack, what did she call it? She didn't call it a shack. She calls it something else. But...
No, but she's the quote unquote evil. Well, she's Maleficent's character in the first book, and then you find out that she's actually not evil. So
the OG Sleeping Beauty.
Yes, she literally is the first one.
But that was definitely a kind of a cool twist in this when they end up in one of the Snow White worlds and in the woods, and then they stumble upon Zelendine's cottage, and it's like, what the heck? What are you doing in this world? And
she's like the trope. What is it? The wise old man trope. That's her. This is her. To
a T.
Yeah, story. She gives some parting words to Zinnia, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I'll let you take the next one.
The next one would be Red and her family members and the evil queen of her world all mashed into one. So Red is the Snow White of her story, and she is running away from her evil queen of her world, which, plot twist, was actually the OG Snow White, who turned evil after learning after killing her stepmom, the first evil queen, and then pretty much doing the whole I'm going to bathe in children's blood to internal youth thing going on. And
I guess you're not wrong.
Right. And turns evil. So Red is, running away from the first Snow White of this story, and Eva and Zinnia happen upon her. And Zinnia, as a true I need to save her mentality, wants to save her, and she really doesn't need saving because her family is like badass and was like rebellion, so saves her. But it's kind of nice because that's where Eva learns to like maybe not be such an awful human.
Right. That's true. That is kind of where she has her change of heart moment. And the last character we'll talk about characters we'll talk about are Charm and Prim. Charm is obviously Zinnia's best friend from her original world. She's now in this book married to Prim, who is one of the Sleeping Beauties that they saved in.
Is the Sleeping Beauty? She's kind of like Eva's character in this book. Like she's the one that Zinnia meets and saves in the first.
She's
book.
the original, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and they're not in the book a whole lot. They're discussed at the beginning. We don't actually see them, their characters, till the very end when
they're still cute though.
When Zinnia gets back to her world, but yeah, they do play a role, part of the story. So let's get into the questions. What did you think of the writing style and content structure of the book?
So I enjoyed this writing style. I guess I'm curious to know, like, what do you mean by writing style? Is it like the first person point of view, or of how like the main character kind of talks to you in her head type thing? Like, is that what you mean by the writing style? Or
so writing style is kind of an all-encompassing thing, that this the way in which the author
above.
writes this story. So like that it's first person, that we're getting those thoughts in her head, just the way that Alix Harrow writes.
Sure, all the above. So I enjoy this type of writing if it is done well. I feel like it is a very fine line that authors have to trudge upon, walk upon, whatever you want to say. And luckily, I feel like the author here does a very good job of it, because I think Zinnia is extremely fun to read. I enjoy her voice. I love her inner monologues, her quips, her humor. It's just really fun following her around. I enjoy just her as a character overall. So it's fun to read her story and her point of view. And it is like chaotic and all over the place, but I enjoy that. I feel like some people just either they don't make a good enough character to follow around, or maybe they're a little too boring, or they don't put enough personality in it because they're hoping maybe the reader might bleed their personality into the book, which is fine, but sometimes that just doesn't work. Zinnia is just full of personality, and I love that for her. And so I really enjoyed this writing style for this particular book. Context structure of the book, same thing. Like overall, I enjoyed it. I obviously, like, I was cackling the whole time while reading this, and then obviously the poignant moments are great and heartwarming and really get you in the feels.
So I don't have a whole lot of extra things to say on top of what Barbara said. I also really liked the writing style and the content structure of the book. I think that Alix Harrow is a fantastic writer. I think that it takes a fantastic writer to not only write a first-person story, because as Barbara established, that's difficult to do, but to write a first-person novella, I think is even harder, where you've got to have this entire self-contained story in 124 pages. And she does that really well, and I really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed both of them. I actually would like to read one of her full novels at some point, especially since one of them was so award-winning that I was just talking about a little bit ago.
I have to pick up one of them.
So maybe we'll have to read one of those in the future. But yeah, I think she does a great job. I think she's a fantastic writer. I will happily read other things written by her. How did this work for you as a retelling? And do you have a favorite version or retelling of Snow White? I think that's kind of a hard question to answer. Like I enjoy reading fairy tale retellings. But unlike Zinnia, I am not a master of all versions of fairy tales. So while I am familiar with Snow White's story, I'm really only familiar with like the Disney version, obviously, and then also the Grimm brothers version of Snow White. And you learn about, is it 2 or 3 different versions that she talks about as we go through here?
I mean, they jump through a lot of versions of it.
Yeah.
Technically, like quite a few, but like the 2 or maybe 3 main ones. There's like 3, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it worked well as a retelling. I thought it was an interesting way to kind of mash up a few different versions of Snow White, and also take obviously its original spin on it by adding the multiverse effect and all of that. And I think my favorite version of the 2 that I'm familiar with is the Brothers Grimm version, because it's the darker, more fantasy version of it. I feel like
with Thor, isn't he in it? It's Thor.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure it's Thor.
Yep, it's one of the Hemsworths, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's. You're talking about Snow White and the Huntsman?
Yeah.
I never watched that, but
you didn't?
Never seen it.
JK. I mean, he's great in it for good looking purposes, but what Charlize Theron is like My Evil Queen. You know what? Maybe I just really enjoy the Evil Queen and Snow White more so than Snow White.
That's what it sounds like based on our conversations.
You know, I think I have a thing. I've noticed. It's them, the Evil Queen. It's my fave. Anyways, I'm sorry. I actually thought you had seen that movie.
No,
JK.
I have not. I'll have to watch it, I guess, at some point. But that was it. That's all I had to say. You can.
I mean, it's not. It's fine. It's not super great of a movie.
Okay. Nothing to write home about.
No, not really. But I mean, like I said, like you should just watch it for Charlize Theron alone. And
they made a sequel, didn't they?
They did. I never watched it.
Okay.
Yeah. I love retellings. I find them really fun to read. I have a bunch on the shelves. A bunch. I don't know. It's just always fun to see how these authors come with like the basic knowledge of these stories, whether they take like from the what we would consider an original or something like that, put their own spin on it. I do enjoy that and seeing how they come up with these ideas, because like really like these stories have been told like so many times, and yet like there's so many books coming out that are still doing these retellings, and it's fun to see like how they put their spin on it and how they change it up and how they make it original, even though you've read billions and seen millions of these stories over the years. I did love this one and how she continues the retelling of like the multiverses, but this time it's like Snow White's version. I think she does a really great job of it, and you can, like I said, I mentioned earlier, like you can really tell that she knows what she's talking about as far as these fairy tales are concerned. Which one's my favorite version? It would, like I mentioned, would have to be Once Upon a Time, the TV show of Snow. So I'm not super familiar with Snow White. She was never my favorite one. Quite the opposite. But I loved Once Upon a Time, the TV show. And yes, I like the overall story of that one is Snow White, but obviously there's a bunch of different fairy tales in Once Upon a Time, which I love the TV series.
Yeah, and it's like a combination of all sorts of them, isn't it? Like
it is. But like the core characters are from Snow White. And like I mentioned, I just love me the Evil Queen / Regina. Like I just loved her because she too goes through a spoiler alert. I mean, this TV show has been out for years now, so that's your fault. I just love the character arc that she goes through. She goes from like this evil badass, she's still a badass and can be evil person, to like her redemption arc. Like she goes through a redemption arc, and I just love that. And the actress is amazing at it, you know? So yes, I absolutely love that one and love Regina / Evil Queen. Yeah, definitely have a thing for the Evil Queen.
That is clearly Barbara's favorite character. I didn't ask that question, but if I had, I feel like that would be the answer.
Yes. I guess I'm just a sucker for redemption arcs, man. I enjoy that. I enjoy seeing that. Because like I said, sometimes the protagonists and they're too goody two shoes and they're just too perfect. I'm like, gosh, come on, like, can you do no wrong? And like my little evil babies are like, oh, I can fix you, you know.
Moving on from there, what did you find was unexpected this time around?
Yeah, I didn't think I would be surprised in this one like the other one, but yet here we are. And it's always with the evil characters. And this time she is actually evil. And I'm talking about in Red's universe that we fall into, and I mentioned this already, but like the Snow White of that universe, the OG Snow White is the one who turned into the Evil Queen, part deux, and she's the one who's now like mishandling or she's murdering these children for eternal youth. And it's just interesting because like even Zinnia mentions it's like, oh well, like your OG Evil Queen was, you know, hunting you and you defeated her and you turned around and became what you hated or became what was hunting you. And she's like, oh well, you know, yes. You know, so it's kind of like I enjoyed that twist because I mean, I'm sure that's been done before because, you know, like this has been done so many times, but I was not expecting that. And I thought that was really interesting to see and read about. So I thought that was the fun twist for me.
And for me, it was also, I was not expecting that. I mean, I don't know if say I wasn't expecting it entirely, but it was just a really interesting arc to have, like you just described, the innocent Snow White defeat the evil queen to become the evil queen, and it's it's a nice parallel to what happens often in the real world, and how power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and you see that with Snow White.
What is that from? That line you just said?
Line? I'm not sure.
You be stealing, not even frickin'.
Not sure what it's from. It's a common saying or phrase. It is. Yeah. But yeah, that was also what I found to be the biggest unexpected twist. I mean, a lot of the book was an unexpected twist for me, just because I wasn't super familiar with the other retellings of Snow White. But that was probably the biggest, just wow, to see like that, the transformation from the innocent hero to, what ended up being the big bad guy in this story. How do you feel this was compared to the first book? That's a good question. I really enjoyed both of them. I think that between the two, I probably liked the first one a little bit more. If you just made me pick one and I couldn't say I liked them equally, I would say I liked the first one just a little bit more. But I also really enjoyed this one. They're really good. It was a great sequel. It picked up pretty close to where the first one left off, and still weaved in a lot of the things that were in the first book as well. So to keep it, actively part of this duology. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it, but I think I did like the first one just a little bit more.
I find it hard to compare, since they can be considered standalones in the sense that they tell complete stories within each novella. Like, you could technically pick this one up. The only thing you would miss out on is like why Zinnia can travel through these worlds and why she's doing that, and kind of like the undertones of why she's continuing to do this, and like her whole mental health and how that's affecting her as a person and her disease, essentially. But the overall story, you would still understand. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed Zinnia's character arc and how this one continues it from the first book, because I feel like in the first book she was dealing with the fact that she was not a player in her own story, is how she felt like she had no control in her story, because she was essentially the dying girl who was going to die at the age of, I don't know, what was it, like 22 or 21 or something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, that was definitely a big theme, the agency of your own tale.
And in this one, it's more like she's not, like, she got control of her story type thing, but she's not happy with how it's going to end. Like, she kind of got a second chance at life, but is running from that chance, essentially. And it's how she's dealing with it. And I think this book is a good look at PTSD and or just in general dealing with some mental health issues as well, with Zinnia's character. So I don't know which one I like more. I mean, I feel like the OG is just the OG. It's kind of hard to compare or compete with that one. I liked both of the girls' story, and in that one, this one I feel like Zinnia's a little more angry at the world. I mean, the first one she was super angry. Maybe this one she's more, I don't know. It's hard to compare them. I don't know. I liked maybe the first one would edge out a little bit more, but that also didn't have my enemies to lovers story, and I'm just a sucker for that. So I don't know. It's hard to compare. I won't pick. I refuse.
You refuse. Speaking of enemies to lovers, do you like enemies to lovers stories? And if yes, did this one work for you?
I mean, bitches be loving enemies to lovers tropes, and I be bitches. Yes. Clearly, it's one of my favorite tropes. Yeah, obviously, I feel like if you listen to our podcast at all, you know that this is one of my favorite tropes to read about. I don't know why. I just really enjoy them, but it's probably the sexual tension of it all. Yes, obviously, it's. I really enjoyed this one. I do think it was a little short, though, and kind of hard to, I mean, I loved it, but it's just, realistically speaking, in just like a true fairy tale movie or story that you read about, like they come to enjoy each other's company in like 3 days, which, Disney, like that's what Disney does. Like hell, Frozen even makes fun of it. So they're self-aware of that, at least, but it's just I would have loved to have seen their relationship in maybe a larger book just to kind of see, because I really like that tension is what I enjoy about it. And I just wanted more. I wanted that string to be pulled even more taut before they come back together type thing. So yes, I enjoyed it. I just wanted more, I just wanted more. And I thought they were so fun. Like her Labrador, Zinnia's, but she was also kind of like her biting remarks to the evil queen, aka Eva. That's why she named her that, which I thought was
Right.
really cute.
That was
That
funny
ending,
too.
so cute. They were so cute though.
So, do I like the enemies to lovers trope?
Do you like any like romance tropes? I feel like you
No,
don't.
I mean, I don't dislike it, but I don't think it's
Mhm.
fair to say like that I like it in the same way that you do. Like it's like you really enjoy when that
I
trope appears in
do.
a story.
I
When
do.
that trope appears in a story, whether it's a book or a movie or a video game, like it's not like I'm like, oh, here we go again. Like I don't dislike it, but it's also like not something I like when it happens. I don't go and get all excited
So
either.
so here's my
I'm indifferent.
question. What is your favorite, and it not trope in general, because there's so many tropes, like hero trope, that's a trope. But what is your favorite romance type trope then? Do you know enough of them to
What
have
is my
one, or
favorite
do I
romance
need to start
trope?
like
I mean,
naming
if
them
you
out for
name some
you?
off, I might be able to
I mean,
answer that.
the enemies to lovers, the friends to lovers, the enemies to enemies to lovers. There's the one bed trope.
Did you say enemies to lovers to enemies to lovers?
Yes, that's a thing.
Wow, that's a lot.
Or like friends to enemies to lovers, or to back to front. It's a whole thing. Like all of those are things. I mean, there's the one bed one. There's, I don't know. There's just a bunch of different tropes. Like really, there's
So,
the
I mean, of
creepy one. Okay, let me rephrase that. I find it a bit weird, but it's like the 1,000-year-old with the teenager trope. Twilight looking at you. But no, there's just a bunch. There's a bunch.
and I also I looked up an article that lists a bunch of the
Oh, did
romance
you?
tropes. I did, and between what you said and what this says, probably I mean, enemies to lovers is a fun trope. It's interesting to see that relationship change from. I guess I mean, and would this be so not necessarily enemies, but just like not like if you just like don't really agree with the person, does that still count as an enemies to lovers trope?
I don't know, because what do you mean by not agreeing? Because we're talking about like knife and throat type scenes. Like I
See,
want to
that's not
murder
what I'm talking
you.
about. This would be more like if it's a fantasy book, it'd be more like there's a party of people that are going together. They're
Mm-hmm.
all the good guys. They're working towards the same goal. It would be like if in the Lord of the Rings, if
Okay.
Legolas and Gimli had a romantic relationship, and
Okay.
their whole like butting heads
I
throughout
would
the
say
entire
that would
story.
be enemies to lovers, because their characters, their races don't like each other. Like that
Yeah.
the whole reason why they don't like each other is based off this stupid like your race did something to my race and we hate each other. So I would say in that particular scenario that I would consider that an enemies to lovers case. But
Well,
like
then
if
I
you
guess I
just
need to
have a
change my answer.
misunderstanding,
I do like
then
enemies to lovers then because
okay,
I
see.
enjoy the stories too where it's not necessarily enemies to lovers, but it would be like enemies to friends where like they start out.
But that's not a love story.
I know it's not a romantic trope; it's just a
Well,
trope.
that's
But
not. We're not talking. We're not talking about just tropes.
the other one that I saw listed here that I liked, well, there's two actually that are kind of interesting, but the stuck together or trapped in an elevator trope.
Yes.
I think that's
Or
interesting.
fake
And then
dating.
also,
Love me that one. Ugh.
what'd you say?
Fake dating.
Oh, that's literally what I was about to say. Is a fake relationship. That's the
Love
other
the
one
fake
that
dating one, because
that's
that's always
always
gonna turn out so
predictable
well.
but entertaining.
Of course, like
Yeah.
come on, like yes, let's pretend we like each other and spend 24/7 hours together, and then somehow not fall in love.
If both of our mothers were here on this podcast, they would choose this last one, which is holiday romances and films.
The Christmas one
With all their like romantic Hallmark movies they watch.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Anyway, if you could multiverse yourself into a fairy tale, which would you pick? This is a hard question because like there's lots of fairy tales and like lots of the real fairy tales are like not places I would really want to go, to be perfectly honest. Which one would I want to go into? Ooh, maybe like the Cinderella, but not the traditional Cinderella, like the Cinder, the that book that we read, that so it's like has like the technology and the yes, Marissa Mayer.
Yes, Marissa Mayer.
That world would be really interesting, I think, to step into.
That would be. Although, there's a lot of bad stuff happening in that universe.
There's a lot of bad stuff happening in like most of the fairy tales, if you think about it.
I mean, that's the whole point of a fairy tale, right? There's evil people after you.
Right. I mean, that is definitely a trope. I'm trying to think what other one might be interesting to jump into. I mean, Aladdin would be kind of fun, or technically Alibaba and the 40 Thieves is the actual story. That would be kind of I love that Disney film, and the original story is also really good. I think that's it. I can't really think of any other ones that I would be super eager to jump into. So I'll give it to you.
I feel like this is too hard for me to choose because there's so many of them, and like you mentioned, it would be kind of be like, do I want to potentially die in this fairy tale?
Right.
Like there's some I was thinking,
or do I want to go back to a time where there's not modern medicine?
Right. Well, mine's more like running water. That's the whole thing. Like I need a running toilet. I'm sorry, I just can't. But anyways, if taking all that out of the whole equation, like there's some really cool Brazilian ones, but they're kind of creepier. Like they're not like the Disney versions. They're definitely like the Grimm version, because like one of my favorite ones growing up as a kid was like Pica-Pau, and it's like this place, but like the bad guy or bad woman in her case is this lady with a crocodile head, and like I don't like crocodiles.
You told me about that one.
Or alligators. I can't tell. I don't remember. I can't tell the difference between either of them. My bad. Little crocodiles / alligators. But we'll say I'm pretty sure it's crocodile. And like that's creepy as F. Like if you've seen like the cartoons of it or like the TV shows what I grew up with, and geez, creepy as F, man. Like I don't. That's traumatizing. So like maybe I don't want any of those, because they're kind of macabre. I would maybe choose, because I'm a sucker for libraries. Like Beauty and the Beast was the first thing that popped in my head, and I don't care about like the Beast dude or Gaston or the original story where like her dad pretty much sold her off type thing. Like, no, I don't want any of that. I just want the libraries. Like, can you imagine every time I was just bored, I just pop into a new library? Like, that would be super exciting to see, like, how many cool libraries that I would get to have that he would, like, proposition me with, And I'd be like, that's true. Okay, cool, bro. Like, yes, because I want the books. I want all of the books. So maybe that one. I think Milan would be pretty cool, but like props not the real one, because I can't fight or use a sword, and fighting the Huns does not sound fun, and having to like fight people and deal with all that, props not fun. But like I just like Milan because she's a badass, but I'm definitely not. So maybe I could be like her Mushu. I don't know, but
that's funny.
Yeah, that's my reasonings.
Well, I came up with another one, The Little Mermaid. If I got to be a merman, because I think it would be fun to be able to like explore the ocean and breathe underwater.
Be Ursula.
I know you would be, because you always like the evil queens. But we've established that, Barbara.
So it's like this. Okay, Michael, it's like this. And I'm not going to take this as my own wording, because I definitely saw this in a meme of some format, right? Like, as a child, you are like, yes, I agree with the princesses. But like when you're an old hag like me, you're like, you know what? These evil bitches have a point. Like you start siding with them. So that's my defense.
So again, I didn't say I wanted to be Ariel. Ursula would be fine. Just I wanted to be able to live underwater. I think that would be cool. That was why I said that.
Merman.
Although this is the final installment in the Fractured Fables duology, if Harrow ever decided to write more in the future, which fairy tale would you love to see her retell, and why?
Yes. I would want her to do more, but like I kind of previously mentioned, maybe like new characters in the multiverse. Obviously, they can. I feel like that might be just hard, just because you can't have all these characters able to like jump through the universes. So maybe like I don't know, pick one and just they stay. But like, how would you do that? I don't know. I'm not the author, but I'm just saying, I think it would be fun to see all these different universes because she came up with some real cool ones. Like from the first book, there was like the Vikings, Sleeping Beauty, like the alien, like from sci-fi or outer space, Sleeping Beauty. So I just feel like all these different multiverses ones would be really cool. I just don't know how she would do that because obviously you can't have all the characters being able to like jump around because that was Zinnia's special powers. But
True.
that would be fun to see. What I would want also would be like, let's not make them novellas. Let's make them into a full novel so I can engorge in them because I love her writing style. I liked her characters. I love the way she describes them and I want more. So just give me more. I need it. Thanks. That'd be great.
So I don't mind the novella. I'll just say that up front. And if she did continue, and we did continue with Zinnia, well, I don't know how you would though, is the only thing, because like
That's what I'm saying. The book ended.
She stops exploring because
Right.
she knows it's going to eventually tear apart the multiverse.
And then it's pretty much implied that she's going to die, obviously. Like, we don't know how long, but once she's on her deathbed, she's going to bite the apple and be reunited with Eva. That was so cute.
But if we just say she's living her life and she's not jumping or intentionally going anywhere, and she somehow gets yanked into another fairy tale, Alibaba and the 40 Thieves,
Eva, Michael. No,
would be fun.
No,
it would.
She needs to be with her one true love. You stop that right now.
Regardless how it's retold, it would be interesting to hear Alix Harrow's retelling of Alibaba and the 40 Thieves.
How about not Zinnia?
I'll leave it at that.
How about someone else?
Not Zinnia. I said someone else. Just the author writing.
Leave her alone.
She's left alone. Her story's over. Well, we did. We made it to the end. Let's talk about our individual scores. What did you give this one, Barbara?
I gave it a 9. I really enjoyed this. I'd like her character because I feel like that would be me if this was it. I just love, like, one of the things is like, I thought, oh shit. I said out loud, oh shit. Like, that's great. That's great writing. That's just, yes, amazing. But yeah, I gave it a 9.
I gave it an 8.5, but in the spirit of Lauren, I'm changing my score to a 5. I'm just kidding. I'm not actually doing that.
I feel like your sister didn't read neither of these two.
No, she didn't. I think she liked them.
Enjoyed these though.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I mean, she might be able to pull it off.
She might give it a 7.5 or an 8 since that's like her highest.
That's probably true. I give it an 8.5 because I gave it that, and Barbara
she would
gave
like
it a 9.
because it is very short. So
it'd be easy for her to read with her busy life. So yeah, our group score, like I said before on this one, is an 8.75. It's one of our higher scores. As you can tell, we really like these books. Make sure you're following Badass Literature for free in your favorite podcast app. Give us a rating and leave us a review if they allow you to. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media. Our handle in both places is @BadassLitPod, and that again is on Instagram and Facebook.
Have feedback about today's episode? Well, you can contact us by writing to badassliteraturesociety@gmail.com. You can also send us a DM or leave a comment on Instagram or Facebook where we can go and just ignore you.
Wow. And with that, thanks so much for listening. I'm Michael.
I'm Barbara. Bye.